Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Kanal. I'm one of the community managers here at Mentor Spaces. I'm excited to host this panel. We have my colleague Randy Emelo, who will be the moderator of this discussion, as well as Mike, who comes from the venture capital team at Amfam Insurance. And today we're going to be spotlighting their analyst and associate opportunities. So with the upcoming launch of their fourth venture fund, Amfam is expanding their investment team. And this session is all about showcasing their analyst and associate opportunities that are in New York and other locations. And they're looking for the right candidates. So if you're interested in this world, welcome to this discussion. Mike will be providing a lot of information on what his world looks like with the discussion. And we'll make sure that you have the inside track to this opportunity. We'll also post the opportunity inside a chat for you to apply after this conversation. And if you have any questions throughout this conversation, please use the Q&A channel or raise your hand and we can unmute you and we can have you share your question with Mike. With that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Randy to introduce himself, and then we'll go around the room here.
Yeah, thank you, Kanal. My name is Randy Emelo. I'm one of the program strategists here at Mentor Spaces, and I'll be moderating the session today. Mike is our mentor panelist today from Amfam Investments, and will be giving his story and his background and his insights into what it's like to be a part of this organization, as well as engaging in the kind of work that he does. And along with this, at any time throughout today's session, feel free to populate questions into the chat feature that we have here, and we'll try to work those into the conversation. We'll also try to make room at the end of our discussion today for any comments or questions that you might have for Mike as we tap into this exciting subject and learn more about the world of investments. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. You know, Mike, as we pick up, I'm going to start off with kind of a general question. Just tell us a little bit, if you would, introduce yourself to the audience, a little bit around high level what your role is, and then we'll jump in from there, and I'll have some follow-on questions, I'm sure.
Yeah, thanks, Randy, and thanks, Kunal, for having me. So I'm Mike Mansell. I'm a principal with Amfam Ventures, and my preference, and I think I haven't met Randy in detail, but I think he would agree with this. We want to see a lot of questions in the chat feature, so that I can answer questions that you all have. And Randy, I'm sure you'll have great questions as well. But anyway, I'm Mike Mansell. I'm a principal on Amfam Ventures. We are a early stage venture capital fund. So we invest in typically seed stage startups to Series B startups, which just means kind of startups as they're just getting started. We typically write checks or make investments in the kind of $5 to $7 million and below range. And in exchange for that investment, we get ownership in the startup. We were started in 2012 as a corporate venture arm of American Family Insurance. We since evolved and progressed into our third fund, which is this $215 million fund. And that's backed by American Family Insurance and also about 10 to 15 other limited partners. So other limited partners, include other insurance companies and others that are interested in risk management and insurance. In terms of the focus of the investments we make, I'd say about half of our checks or half of our investments are in insurtech, which is kind of a subcategory of fintech. And then the other half are what we consider insurance adjacent. And that could be anything from prop tech to mobility to cybersecurity, really anything that can impact a large insurance carrier or policyholders. And then the last thing I'd highlight is we've got two kind of hubs or two offices, one in the New York City area, and then one in Madison, Wisconsin, where I'm located. Happy to go into any of that further. Otherwise, it looks like we've got a couple chats here, but they're not questions yet. So Randy, maybe I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. As we get going, and Kunal, take a look in the chat. I know that Chanel, I'm sorry, hopefully I pronounced that close to right, has something in the chat, and you can bring that question up in just a moment. Mike, as we get going, how did you come to join Amfam Insurance? It's always interesting to hear what your kind of career journey was like, so that those that are sitting in and listening today can align, your experience with where their experience is.
Yep.
So wait a second. Let me clarify that. When you were like 6 or 7 years old, did you think, I'm going to end up being a venture capitalist, getting investment dollars?
I didn't even know what a VC was at that point. So my background, I did my undergrad degree at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and they have one of their majors in the business school is actually insurance. And I took an intro class there and really enjoyed it, and ended up doing a few internships in and around insurance, and then a few other roles before going back for my MBA. And then between my first and second year, during my MBA, I interned with Amfam Ventures, and then joined full time in August of 2019. So I'm coming up on about 3 years with the fund.
Excellent, thank you. And I know that we have some questions coming in. Kunal, do you want to ask one of those questions of Mike?
Yeah, so the question that first came in from Chanel was, what are your thoughts on a diversity investment strategy, and how favorable is the fund on microfinancing and neobanks? But I think that's two separate questions. Let's start off with the diversity investment strategy first.
Yeah, so I think in the sense of diversity investment strategy, the questions around kind of diversifying across multiple portfolio companies or multiple investments. And that's kind of certainly something that venture funds need to do. In other words, we can't invest all of our $200 million fund into just a few companies, because in venture capital, it's very likely that many of your investments will go to zero, or in other words, not make it. So you're betting on 1 to 2 companies really doing well, and then some just won't make it. And that's just the nature of investing in early stage companies. They're risky investments by the very nature. In terms of how favorable is the firm on microfinancing, I'm not exactly sure what that is getting at. And neobanks, we've looked at a handful of neobanks, but have not invested in one. I am not an expert in neobanks, but I do perceive that there is it's an expensive proposition to acquire customers for these neobanks, and that involves a lot of cash. Neobanks isn't really a focus of mine, so I don't want to comment too much on neobanks.
Yeah, that's great. Mike, there's also another question that was in the Q&A here. Where do you usually read research trends in the industries you invest in to help round out your background in insurance? Yeah, so basically, where are you getting your info and intel?
Yeah, that's one of the, I think maybe most interesting parts of the job is there's no blueprint for success. And if there was, there wouldn't really be an opportunity for alpha or outsized returns. So that's my way of kind of taking a cop-out answer of I don't know. I would say there's info everywhere, and it's kind of navigating it and finding the areas where you can get access to information that maybe others don't. So like it might be networking and talking with other investors who have maybe invested in a company at the seed round And so you can get to know them before they raise their Series A. So if you get to know a company 8 months before their Series A raise and develop a relationship with them, you have a better chance of kind of being selected to invest in them at their next round. And I say that as like, that was maybe one of the biggest surprises that I came to realize in venture is, while we're giving or while we're deploying capital or making investments, it's still competitive to get the best startups to accept your money, which is maybe kind of counterintuitive, but the best startups have access to capital. It's a matter of, why should they choose you? And in our case, being insurance focused and kind of vertically focused, we've developed a nice ecosystem of limited partners and co-investors and startups and people in our network that make us a potentially attractive source of capital.
Yeah, Mike, I think that's really some of the things you said there are really key to understanding what VCs do in general. And having been on the other side of the deal table a couple times, I understand a little bit of that. So again, as an entrepreneur that has a solution, an emerging solution, when I've looked for funding, there's lots of different funding sources, but of course, getting one that's synergistic is really important. So in this case, if I had some kind of technology company that aligned well with the insurance vertical, then I would love to talk to Amfam, right? So because you not only represent one of the best brands, leading brands in that vertical, but as you said, you also have a cadre of other connections that you bring to the table. So it's not just finances, but it's who you know and other resources. So part of the deal making, I'm reading into this a little bit, part of the deal making you make is selling your value to a potential startup, or I guess to a legitimate startup who's looking to kind of gain wind and make market moves. That they would be looking. That's part of your job, is to help them understand, what do you get besides cash here.
Yep. And cash is cash, but what can you bring with it matters. And being focused on insurance and insurtech, we've developed insights that could set us apart.
Good. Could you share maybe one or two of the interesting deals that you've been a part of, and just to help those who are listening in understand a little more about the exciting part of the job? What is the value?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with one that I admittedly was not a part of, but it's one that many on the call here will know. And it was before I joined, and this was probably in 2016, 2017 timeframe, so a handful of years ago. But one of the early investments that we made was in Ring, the kind of video doorbell. And that you might look at and say that has nothing to do with insurance, but as you double click into it, you realize that insurance companies are keenly focused on kind of being in and around the home and also home security. So that was an example of an early investment that ended up working out quite well. Another one that I'm super into is a company called ClearCover. They're headquartered in Chicago. They're an auto insurtech. So they're built on a tech foundation that allows customers to easily get low priced and good quality auto insurance. They're super interesting, great founder, really fun and interesting team. So those are kind of two that I highlight to give, I guess, a sample of one that's not really seemingly insurance focused, but related to insurance, and then one that's kind of core insurtech.
That's great. So in a sense, you get to learn a lot about different business models that are out there as you engage these different prospective as well as customers or partners that you bring into your portfolio.
For sure. Yep. And that's kind of the coolest part about the job is this is like oversimplifying it, but to some degree, venture capitalists get paid to have smart people share and tell them about interesting ideas. So part of the job, or a big part of the job, is talking to founders who are working on things that, they're all jazzed up about, and some of them are, extremely interesting. Obviously, the downside is a few of the ideas that you hear aren't super interesting, and you need to tell the founder maybe you're not very into it, and that's always kind of a hard conversation. As a team, we look at something like 2,000 companies a year and invest in 20 of them. So we're very selective, and it might just be that, if a founder talks to us, he or she might have a great idea, but we can't invest in everything we see. Our job is to be selective and pick ones that we think have exponential growth potential.
That's fantastic. We have another question here, and I think it's going to move us into a different line of, inquiry. Coming from the background you came from, learning, getting your spark of interest from a course that you engaged in or a course of study. What were some of the soft and technical skills that you learned, or in this case, you would recommend to somebody who would be looking to transition into being a VC? So what are the key skills you apply today, and how did you prepare for that, or how would you suggest someone prepare for that?
Yeah. I'm trying not to oversimplify here, and but I'm going to for a second. I think many of the skills that apply to other jobs, are super important to venture too, and that, being able to communicate, being able to network. I think networking is a larger part of the job than I realize, and I think than others realize. Just being able to network and find your way to meet interesting people with interesting ideas, and also other investors. In terms of like hard skills, part of me wants to say is like, there's nothing you can't learn on the job. Like, you learn by doing to some degree, and I'm obviously still learning after 3 years. I'd say like, Microsoft Excel and being able to look at financial statements is something that matters. I don't know. I feel like I'm taking a cop out here, but like, communication skills is probably one of the biggest things. And I'd say being able to synthesize information. If you're talking to 100 startups, you can learn something from each of the 100, and then maybe the 101st is like the one that brings everything together, and it's kind of the thing you've been looking for. And then the last thing I'd highlight is just intellectual curiosity. So wanting to learn, wanting to explore. The world is moving super quick in a lot of areas that frankly are hard to keep up with. But being interested and wanting to learn more is a skill that I think everyone can start doing today. As an example, I am by no means an expert in NFTs, but it's an area that I'm trying to get a little bit deeper at. And I try to learn by doing, and I've downloaded some apps, but not figured out exactly how to buy an NFT, but it's something that I'm trying to get better at.
And hopefully everyone listening on the call understands what NFT is, non-fungible transfers. So talking about blockchain, is that correct?
Yep, non-fungible tokens. Yep. So yeah, it's related to blockchain.
All right. Definitely something that is going to be booming in the future as we all figure out more about that. Safer transactions, I guess, is what it's all about. Mike, as we look at these two roles, there may be other opportunities within the organization, but right now we want to kind of shine the spotlight on the capital analyst and associate roles. Based on your knowledge of the organization, what are those, what can you tell us, or what information could you give us about, those entry points into the organization?
Yeah, for sure. So the roles, the thing with venture capital is like our team is small. So our investment team is, 7 to 10 people. So we're tight knit. We all kind of roll up our sleeves and do the work. And it's likely that an analyst or associate is going to do a lot of the same things that others on the team would do. And that involves sourcing new companies. So that could be reaching out to founders to learn more about what they're building. It would involve diligence support. So if there's a company that we're kind of looking into and exploring further, it could include things like figuring out the market size of the company, or figuring out like who the competitors are and why the particular company is different. It could include like doing some financial analysis to determine when the company would run out of cash, things like that. And then also portfolio company management, which would mean working with companies we've already invested in. That could be supporting companies as they go out to fundraise. It could be talking to a founder about a strategy that he or she is proposing. So the core to venture is, finding companies to invest in and then doing the work to figure out if it's one that we should invest in. So that's like highest level, what the role entails. And I see that Kunal posted the job descriptions as well. So that provides a little bit more detail.
Great. And does it really matter a lot what background someone's coming from? Do they need to have a finance major, or like yourself went to a B school, or?
Yeah, I'd say we're definitely open to all backgrounds. I'd say like a business school background or a business background is probably a plus, and maybe some experience either working with startups or, in common paths are like investment banking or consulting, or like M&A type work. But we're pretty open to talking to everyone.
Great, thank you so much. As you think back, well, let's talk a little bit about your team. You had mentioned it's kind of a smaller environment. Can you describe, what's that like? And from your perspective, what are some of the advantages? Obviously, you not only were attracted there, but you've been there for 3 years. It sounds like you want to be there for a while.
Yeah.
What's keeping you?
I'd say like we all genuinely like each other, which is important. We get along. We are on Zoom with each other a lot these days. So it's not that we're in person as much as as much as we'd like. We're trying to be smart about getting together in person. For example, we have an offsite coming up, where we're all going to go to Savannah, Georgia for an in-person meeting. The team, we're by and large virtual. We've got offices in Madison, Wisconsin and New York City, but we're still, not returning to them full time. We've been in, a little bit, but not a ton. The team we all like each other. We all get along. We want what's best for each other. It's a good place.
Great, thank you. And what is how friendly is the organization towards those who might be coming from an underrepresented background?
Very much. We're definitely being cognizant around diversity and inclusion initiatives, and we want to increase diversity. It's core to what we do, and we're trying to get better and better there.
Great. And someone's just asked a question: what's the work-life balance like for a VC? We've all heard the stories.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I think that the driver to the work-life balance question is like motivation, and it seems like venture people are highly motivated. The way that I would describe it is almost like the treadmill never stops, but it's important to step off of it sometimes. And what I mean by that is like there's always more you can be doing, and if you lose sight of that, you'll just keep doing and doing. for example, there's always another startup that you could meet with, and each meeting might be 30 minutes, or there's always another person that you can network with. And like, if you just keep going and going, you're not going to have any personal time. As a team though, we totally value work-life balance. We all work really hard, and sometimes the hours can get long, but it's almost like it's self-induced, because we're all motivated. That said, like, I was on vacation for a week recently. Like we and everyone kind of made sure that I unplugged and didn't join meetings, and someone else was on a vacation last week. Like we try to stress the idea of unplugging as well.
Great, thank you. So it sounds like it's a really passion-driven environment.
Yeah, we're all passionate about what we're doing, and we want to do good work. Yeah.
DGW, it's one of our corporate values, do good work. Although everyone is remote, there's another question from the Q&A. Although everyone's remote at the moment, will it be expected to relocate near one of the offices?
I admittedly am not sure. I think we're open to flexibility there. That said, we've got, our team is, we've got a Madison and New York office, but not everyone lives in Madison or New York. So we've got people in Boston, Philadelphia, New York, obviously, Madison, and the idea is you can get to an office fairly quickly.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mike. I know we're coming up on the end of our time. We need to maybe pass it over to Kunal to talk about other upcoming sessions, as well as wrap us up and take us out of here, get us all a little bit, one half step closer to the weekend. And Mike, before we go, thank you so much for contributing your experience and your knowledge on this critical topic.
Thank you, Randy. I thought this went well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, both of you, for that amazing discussion on this opportunity. If you've been following the chat, please look at the link that I shared to apply to this opportunity or express interest in applying to this opportunity. The team with Mike, and there's a recruiter that we're working with, Amanda. We're going to go, everybody who uses that link will receive direct access to Amanda to ensure that your application is reviewed. So please go ahead and reach out to the team there if you're interested in this opportunity. And we're happy to also facilitate any introductions or any other information that you need from the Amfam team before you decide to apply. So just wanted to highlight that. In the next couple of weeks, we're also going to onboard mentors from Amfam who will be supporting your overall career development as it relates to this opportunity or any other opportunities within insurance. So take a look at the mentors that sign up and onboard into the American family insurance space, and connect with them when they join. With that, we'll go ahead and close this out. Thank you all for joining us on a Friday. Actually, just wanted to make sure that last call for questions. Any other questions for Mike? All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day and have a good weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thank you.